So you've been working really hard, you thought you did everything right, but unfortunately you didn't get into medicine. It happens. For me, my first time when I found out I didn't get into medicine, I was pretty angry and a bit in denial. I even emailed them to try and get feedback on where I went wrong, what I could do better for next time, but obviously they don't give personalized feedback. And I thought I'd make this video to discuss what I wish I had known after getting that first rejection. I applied for medicine 3 times and only got in on the 3rd time. So I know what you're going through. It sucks. Guys, for some of you, this will be perhaps the worst news you've had maybe in your lives. It's an awful experience the first time it happens, but what you need to do is start reframing and understanding that this is an opportunity to build your resilience, okay? You need to develop resilience in life, and it's gonna happen again where you really work hard for something and it doesn't happen the way you hope. First thing that happened to me when I didn't get into med, I felt horrible, but pretty soon after I said to myself, wow, it's gonna be so good when I actually get in, all right? So it's a comeback, right? You didn't get in the first time, but it's gonna make you come back twice as hard. So use this as the motivation that you need to get in the second time. Now, before we get into the 3 steps, I think it's important to appreciate an important concept that comes up a lot in my life, but also just in medicine. And I talk about it a bit in my other video about the 7 habits of highly effective medical students. And it's essentially the first habit of being proactive. And the essence of being proactive is focusing on what you can control. You didn't get into medicine. You need to accept it. You cannot control that has happened. So what can you control? What can you focus on? Well, what you can focus on is understanding why you didn't get in and working towards your next application so that you do get in. So what's the first thing in the 3 steps you have to take? Step number 1, take a breather, take a weekend off. You've just had bad news. It's basically a form of trauma, not significant compared to other standards of trauma, but it's still a form of trauma for you because you expected an outcome and it didn't happen the way that you wanted, and it could have been for you maybe the first time that you've had such bad news. So you need space. You need to process this. So take a weekend off, go to the beach, read a book, do whatever works for you, but just create space from med, and then you can come back for step 2. Step 2 is understand where you went wrong. Now, for me, it was very obvious where I went wrong. I got 43 on my first UCAT, so I was never even going to get an interview. But for you, it might be more nuanced. So try and understand where you went wrong. If it's a problem with your grades, a problem with UCAT, a problem with an interview, or a problem with all 3, this is going to help decide how we handle step 3, which is essentially what we'll get to now, the next steps. Step 3 is about how you're going to get into medicine, not if, how. If you've just finished year 12, there are 2 options for you. Option number 1 is you start an undergraduate degree and enter into undergraduate medicine the next year. So in your undergraduate degree, just get good marks and then get a good UCAT and reapply for undergraduate medicine, do the interview, and then enter into undergrad medicine that way. Option number 2 is you start working for postgraduate medicine where you focus on GAMSAT prep. Really, you should do both of these. So what that means is start a degree next year, preferably medical science or a science-based degree, which will help you in medicine, especially if you get into postgrad medicine, because the sciences in postgrad medicine are very accelerated, so it's good to have a science undergrad. And in that first year of your science degree, prepare for the UCAT. People who say that you can't study for the UCAT, I don't agree with. It's a skill to do well in UCAT exams, and you can develop that skill. Do plenty of practice papers, treat it like a part-time job. And then with interviews, do not wing it. Do not just think that you have the gift of the gab and you can just walk in and do a good job. You need to practice with different people and get people to be mean to you. I always, if I do interview prep with my friends, I'll always do one session where I'm a nice interviewer and then one session where I'm a mean interviewer. And they always say that the value they get is when you're a mean interviewer, because that really challenges you to keep your cool under pressure. Because there's nothing harder than having an interview with a mean examiner. Now, if you don't get into undergraduate medicine that first year application, it's still okay because you can do postgraduate medicine. For postgraduate medicine, you need to start preparing for the GAMSAT early. That's the key point here, okay? GAMSAT is like the UCAT, and even more than the UCAT, an exam you can prepare for. Give yourself a full year at least of weekly GAMSAT prep. Treat it like a part-time job, 4 to 7 hours a week in the early weeks, and then you can build it up as you get closer to the GAMSAT day. And the GAMSAT score is good for 2 years, so you should definitely do it in your penultimate year and your final year of your studies so that you can have 2 GAMSAT scores when you're applying for medicine, and you can just pick the best one. Most importantly here, guys, is Don't lose motivation because you didn't get in, okay? Some people just won't get into medicine and that sucks. But if you just give up, then you'll never get into medicine. You need to at least try. You need to have faith in yourself. A final point I wanted to talk about here is the value of a gap year. I am very pro gap year. I think they're fantastic. The benefits that you gain on a year off outweigh all the possible cons. The most common criticism of gap year that I've received is that if you take a gap year, you might not want to come back and do your medicine, right? You might not be as motivated to come back and do your degree. That is a very good reason to take a gap year, guys. If taking some time off to get perspective of the world and understand yourself and your values and your skills and whatever makes you not want to do what you are doing, then you should definitely take that time off. That's important because you're basically just repressing the truth of yourself. So I'm very pro gap years, but at the moment, due to travel restrictions because of COVID, it's not the best time to take a gap year. I actually think since so many of us are at home, and if you're staying at your parents' place and you've got a place to study, even maybe an office or a family room where you can set up a computer, then just smash out a year of uni, wait for kind of COVID to settle a little bit and take a gap year later. You can take gap years in the middle of degrees. It's not something that people do often, but you can absolutely do it. I did it. So I did first year medical science, then took a year off, and then second and onwards. And I came back so hungry and so motivated to learn medical science and get into medicine after that year off. And because it's really what I wanted to do. It wasn't something I was telling myself that I wanted to do. So having that space, having that little holiday trip, work holiday, whatever, it was good for me. And I think it'd be good for you. But because of COVID, probably next year, just study your bum off and do another year of uni. All right, guys, hang in there. I hope that was all right and helpful. If it was, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give the video a like, and you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitch. And that's it for this video. Have an absolutely lovely day. Bye for now.